The views and opinions expressed by the guest author or speaker during this live session are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of Reader's Magnet. The content shared is for informational purposes only and does not constitute endorsement or promotion of any particular belief, ideology, or product.
Hello, authors, book lovers, and storytellers. Welcome to another awesome day here at RM Hive, and you're tuning in to Reader's Magnet featured author interview. I'm your host, Revan, and our featured author brings decades of frontline experience in global security, military intelligence, and U.S. Russia relations. A retired brigadier general and former senior U.S. defense attaché to Russia, he offers rare firsthand insight into one of the world's most complex regions. Through his writing, he shares powerful lessons from history, leadership, and life behind the headlines. He is the author of our featured book today. It's called Swimming the Volga, a U.S. Army officer's experiences in the pre-Putin Russia. Please help me welcome Peter B. Zwack. Hi, Peter. Thank you for joining us here today. How are you?
Great to see you, Rosanna, and thank you for having me, and greetings to your audience.
Yes. And yes, hello to our live audiences out there. We're actually live right now on YouTube and Facebook, um, um, Readers Magnet's Facebook account. So, by the way, before we go to the questions, Peter, I would like to confirm your book has been displayed at the LA Times Festival of Books. How was that for you?
Yes, it was a very they made a very nice, a good display, and there was and I appreciated the good interest in the book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you know what, the title, I love it. It's very it's very unique to me, and I would like to know more about this. Swimming the Volga. So, how could today's modern readers benefit from reading this book? Swimming the Volga.
Well, let's. I'm going to this book. I wrote it as as a perspective that would
Mm-hmm.
be interesting to those that are real Russia international relations oriented, but also for people that just like a good story. Because the book,
Mm-hmm.
first and foremost, is about people. I arrived to Soviet Union in
Mm-hmm.
1989 with a group of American students from University of Rochester and Brown University. And we
Mm-hmm.
were in a pilot program in the Soviet university in the provincial city of Kalinin. It's now called
Mm-hmm.
Tver. Along it runs the traditional historical Volga River, the mother of all rivers, as the Russians
Oh.
called it. And so we were there, this group of American students, about 48, 35 of us. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I came in as a army officer who had been studying Russian. And because the world was changing so fast, friends, this is Gorbachev. This is what they
Mm-hmm.
called the era of glasnost and openness, and everything was wide open.
Mm-hmm.
The Cold War was falling apart, and amazingly, I got a Soviet visa.
Mm-hmm.
And my own side, the military, gave me the permission to study with this American group.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine you have an army officer, young captain, with a bunch of American students in this provincial city. They've never seen Americans before. It's as if we were
Mm-hmm.
Martians, and had a fascinating summer there, where the I would say the doors to what you would call genuine Russia were opened up to us in this ancient town that is on the Volga River, which I swam
Mm-hmm.
with Russian and American students almost every day across the Volga.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I really love how you went back to the memory, I actually pictured them out, and I have never been to Russia, and I just learned about Volga right now, so I'm actually picturing everything. The mother of all rivers, and you and your classmates are swimming in there, and I love how you tell the story. So I would like to know, Peter, what inspired you to write this personal memoir? Swimming
Yes,
the Volga.
I kept a diary when I was in.
Oh.
I'd write every night before I went to bed, or exhausted, or we'd had too much vodka with
Mhm.
the Russians or whatever. I try to write 10 minutes, just
Mm.
perspectives. And as I said, it was all focused. Yes, we're incredibly interesting places, but it was
Mhm.
the people, as I said, Russians from all walks of life,
Mhm.
Russians that were aspiring, most of them, to a better life
Mhm.
post-Soviet, post-communist,
Mhm.
um, and had this, and they opened the city up to us, took us into places that we never imagined. We had debates with uh, old Russian gentlemen and women and young students,
Mhm.
and some retired military.
Mhm.
A air base used by the Russians in Afghanistan was there, so the Chorny Tulip, the black Tulip airplane, would come in from
Mhm.
Afghanistan every day, and it was often, sadly, had casualties in it. Um,
Mhm.
and this isn't Moscow. This isn't Leningrad at the time.
Mhm.
This is a traditional Russian city, about half a
Mhm.
million, in the heart of the Soviet Union.
Mhm.
And the book, it's like I'm trying to describe almost and make real, make alive
Mhm.
every brick, every church without going overboard. But then again,
Mhm.
it comes down to the people's stories. So
Mhm.
it's not a highbrow book. I mean,
Mm.
those that like detail, it's plenty of it. But I'm trying
Mhm.
to make Russia, whether one likes it or not, more understandable from the eyes of my time there,
Mhm.
as somebody who has read and grown up with the stories, and
Mhm.
studied Russia as an American military officer for, by that time,
Mhm.
10 years.
I really love how you actually put in, the people in there, because, just telling their stories out there. A lot of people might not know more about the Russians out, after the Soviet Union. Uh, like me, I don't know, I didn't know anything about them, and I love that this you've actually written a book about this, that a lot of people will actually get to know more about it. This as what you said, it's about the people. It's also culture. It's a future as well. And I want to know, Peter, how did you combine the deep history and storytelling about people found on literally every page of this book?
Well, it's a great question. It's you try to, not in some stilted way,
Mm-hmm.
break it into over detailed narratives
Mm-hmm.
on the things one would read in a complicated history book, but you're touching the main points. And
Mm-hmm.
not just that, it was the impressions we were feeling. The word is
Mm-hmm.
chustva in Russian, feeling of things. And I have a chapter to the American students that are with me
Mm-hmm.
in the book, called Other Voices at the end of it. And about six Americans offer several pages of their perspectives on
Mm-hmm.
top of my perspectives, to really, really make it a and these are college students.
Mm-hmm.
And I was by far the most senior person in the group. And the
Mm-hmm.
Russians knew exactly that I was military. There was no secret.
Mm-hmm.
And we would have really interesting discussion with Russian veterans from the old Great Patriotic War, which is the Second World War, and Kalinin Tver was captured by the Nazis in the first year and then retaken. So all of these histories swirl through there. It was also on the edge of medieval Russia when they were fighting the Mongols half a millennia ago. So there you can take any flavor, and I try to give those perspectives. Like, for example, several of students of mine that I was with and me, we would get on the Russian railroads on the weekends when we weren't studying, which were incredibly cheap. And we would just go into the countryside in interesting places, and we were in Moscow, which was quite something. So you can see the enthusiasm I had, always realizing, and I must emphasize this point, that we were still, the Americans, still in a Cold War with the Russians. Everything was falling down. But I was an old Cold Warrior, and I came in with a lot of preconceived notions, and had studied the Soviets. I mean, and this is the Soviet Union and the United States that had, hundreds of thousands of ICBM nuclear rockets and missiles aimed at each other. I mean, so it's not, when I'm talking about the Russians, in a way, or I try to understand them. Empathy,
yes,
is not always sympathy, but when you're trying to understand a people or an individual, and it's important to try to get into their head and try to understand whether they're coming from, whether you agree or not. And there's plenty I disagreed with. Remember, these were still toward the end of the communism there. But Russia also, I learned that Russia was a superpower, not just missiles and war, but they were a superpower in science. And how about the fine arts? And a lot of these things. And it's the balance that I try to portray in the book. And the students, I had Russian students that were all flavors. Some were old school. One of my minders, you have a student that will stay with you and keep you company, if you will. This young Komsomol guy, which was sort of the edge of the Communist Party. I mean, not a secret, but what he really loved was rock and roll. And so we talked all about that. The big, the summer and I was taken to bars and music and little grassroots music studios. The favorite rock band of that summer in 1989 was Pink Floyd, and the Wall. All in all, we are just in the Wall. So so we would sing and all that. And the Russians, our teachers, were very hardworking, good Russians. Tried hard to teach us Russian songs and cultural songs. So we had a sense of the culture. And I try to paint that in there. One gentleman in family, through the school, I got introduced to his family and went out to the collective farm where he was working, which was old socialist, and saw all that. And that was absolutely fascinating. We went out to dachas. We were not heavily followed or watched, though obviously monitored.
Mhm.
And basically, as one of the older ones in our group, I would just say, enjoy, just don't do anything stupid. Because we were in a officially still adversary country.
Mhm.
And I tried to certainly live by that, though we really, I have to confess, pushed the envelope. Um, and But I think that the families, the
Mhm.
people, the success stories, the tragic stories, because Ravan, what is so
Mhm.
important is this book is not just about a summer.
Mhm.
I come back 8 times in the
Mm.
next 10 years while Russia is now opening up, and my friends are still there. And so I see how they evolve
Mhm.
over the 10 years of democracy and capitalism and the again the excitement, we're going to get rich type of
Mhm.
capitalism in the early days. And then sadly for quite a few, the disappointments,
Mhm.
almost the naive belief that everything is going to be better. But for many, it isn't, because you have in a fast moving, opening, evolving society, you have
Mhm.
what we call the slicksters, the
Mhm.
slicky guys, and the young mafia. Um,
Mhm.
and I saw friends of mine that were interested in business, which is normal, but they became they would trade with us. We come in with some American things, everything from a really good tennis racket, a Prince tennis racket, to our sneakers and jeans. And they would trade us Russian uniforms and cool Russian, we call them snatchki and things like that.
Mm.
But some of these Russians evolved
Mhm.
into full-scale black marketeers and mafia, because at that time of Russia, those who owned the goods got ahead, and it was didn't like seeing it, but it was almost a natural phenomena when you look at the circumstances, because many
Mhm.
of the families were struggling, and you had those that went into had honest businesses, and their up and coming banks uh,
Mhm.
got fleeced. I mean, just you had the MMM scandal, which
Mhm.
was a Ponzi scheme linked to banking and money and investments, and hundreds of thousands of Russians, whatever savings they had, lost it. And I was there this summer that hit Russia. I was
Mm.
there during the alcohol, when alcohol was banned in
Mhm.
1991. And all of a sudden, no vodka. And the lengths that the locals would go to get
Mhm.
a black market vodka. For example, you'd come out with them, and we'd see it,
Mhm.
and they'd hail a car, they'd stop. The taxi in the trunk would have a bunch of vodka bottles, and they
Mhm.
transaction, and off goes the taxi somewhere else. It was that kind of Wild West period, because this is the
Mhm.
period before Putin.
Mhm.
And Russia is struggling to find its way in international relations. The Americans and NATO and Europe have better relations with Russia, but
Mhm.
it's still tense. I was in Russia when Kosovo happened. Kosovo was the
Mhm.
Balkans, when the NATO stepped in to help the Kosovars from the Serbs. Now,
Mhm.
even the more liberal Russians that I knew, and I knew a bunch, were furious um,
Mhm.
at NATO and the Americans for basically taking on and defeating the Serbs, and even bombing Belgrade. And so to see that from a provincial city in Russia, where we were being introduced to everybody, it was quite a time. And again, this is all through the 90s, when I was right after I was in Clinton. The Berlin Wall fell. I mean, that was the time to be in Eastern Europe and Russia. This book is all about that. It provides background. It will provide some narrative that into the details of this. But in the end, it's the people dealing with these things, which were just headlines for us. And for me, these are things I had studied and all that, but it came to life, and it was something other. There are some of the young ladies, the Russian ladies in our group, all just good teenagers, good kids. But 10 years later, one had become a high-priced call girl in Moscow. Other had gotten through one of these international wedding services, married to an American, and it wasn't going well. In California, and she was there, and so you had these stories of just really tragic stories that goes into all of that. Overriding it all, though, for a reader, the book is my hands-on eyewitness account of all this going on, with episodes and stories about people that try to make the Russians of that time more understandable. And it is also my attempt to provide, as I said, empathy is not sympathy, meaning you've got to try to understand the other people, whether you think they're right or not, whether you like them or not. And I think that the book absolutely, and you can see the reviews that I've gotten, mostly on Amazon, and the cover, that I think people saw it that way.
You know what, my favorite,
on and on. You can see how passionate about it.
Yes.
And it's been 20, good God, no, it's been 30 years.
It's been a long time.
And all of this informed me when I was in and out doing jobs all over the world. And I was in Russia a bunch of times in the 90s and early 2000s. I come back, Rivan, in 2012, as America, the United States, and you mentioned it, thank you, our senior military officer, defense attaché to Moscow, representing the United States. And it was the greatest privilege of my life to be able to represent us militarily in Moscow to the Russians, but especially during a really, really challenging time. And I was even able to get my family. I went out on a train with my family and went to Tver, it's called that now, while we were there, and walked them through where I was walking, 20 years before that as a student or with students, and introduced them to a number of my Russian friends. Because these Russians, I'm not really in touch now, because you can't, as an army officer that had been there and had been an attaché reach out to Russians in such a difficult period that we're in with them now. We're in another Cold War. And it's the third Cold War that I've been. The first one was growing up as a kid. The second one was Tver and the post-Tver. And then there was this period of openness. And then what we've been in the last 10 years. So the book is sort of a constellation of trying to get on paper and get a handle in a very readable. I tried to make it really readable and not complicated, and just tried to bring these people and places to life. I talked about World War II, the Napoleonic Wars are in there, and business, as they said, was part of it, and how we got along and not. So I mean, there's so much, and I'm talking too much. I need to give you the floor.
Don't worry. I'm actually going to give you the floor where we can find the book, because we actually have run out of time now. So right now, Peter, I want you to tell our viewers out there where we can find the book, and if you have projects that you want to promote as well.
Yeah. Thank you for that, and to your listeners, I gently challenge you to grab a copy of this and just give yourself some time. It's an easy read, and just let fly, and just sort of just ride the story, ride the wave, if you will, and hopefully in some way it will provide some useful emphasis, useful background. You can find it in Amazon very easily, in paperback and hardcover. If you purchase it as a what I'd call self-made author, I'd ask you to write one of those 1 or 2 sentence blurbs in the review section. They really help me as an author. And then also Barnes and Noble has it, a number of their stores, and if not, just ask for it, and they'll order it for you. And those primarily are the main conduits right now to pick them up.
And I believe you have another book as well that you can promote to our viewers.
Yes. Let me stand up for a minute and pull down off the shelf. It's my history shelf.
Really nice looking shelf right there as well.
Yeah, I'm a history nerd, okay? And so, I mean, it's obvious. I mean, this is all talking about, this makes it all come back. This is my book, Afghanistan. Kabul Courier. Kabul, of course, capital, and courier is a German for the news. So Kabul Courier. I have another book that I've been working on for some time called Kosovo Courier, because when I mention Kosovo, I've spent a year of my life in the Balkans. But this is my book on Afghanistan. I was a senior American Army intelligence officer there for a year between 2007 and 2009, and this was a very important period. And sadly, the mission was not going well, but we still had hope. And then it's a people's version. This time I'm talking about being a deployed soldier officer. I was a colonel then at the time, in Kabul, the capital, but I got out a lot, as I did on the Volga, because you have to see to try to understand. And so there are great stories, and there are tragedies, obviously, in the Afghan in this book. It's incredibly personal, just like Swimming the Volga. I write narratives. I take notes in my diary, and then I come back to it. And it's got some. I'm sorry I'm doing this. I mean, I've got some really great reviews, and for something that's recent, to give some background in Afghanistan, but isn't just a boring old history. Again, this book is all about people and experiences. I get into the Afghan culture and the different tribal groups and all of that. And then, of course, the Americans and our great soldiers abroad and elsewhere. And I talk about our NATO allies who are there with us. And you can't forget your allies.
True.
So this is written in the same flavor of Swimming the Volga, and the foreword is by General David McKiernan, who is the four-star general commander of our Afghan mission. And the one thing on Swimming the Volga, the God bless her, I got a wonderful recommendation from Jill Doherty, who has now written a book that could be almost a companion piece to this called My Russia. And I want to get, and she was the senior CNN correspondent for Russia back during the big changes. Yeah, and so if you like Swimming the Volga, take a bite out of Afghanistan. And while it collapsed the mission, I think that a lot of the book endures. It's about people, first of all, us, and also a lot about the Afghans, but I think also gives perspectives of trying to understand the Taliban and try to understand, what the heck we've gotten ourselves into. And then, of course, we know that the mission ended tragically, and a number of people I knew in Afghanistan basically disappeared when the Taliban took power. But so these are the two, and I would love it if you read them, and if you do read them, first of all, thank you in advance. I'm flattered. But if you provide a one or two liner, if you like the book, or if you didn't like the book, and meaning a frank liner. Every author needs criticism, and I really thank ReadersMagnet to get me up in front of your audience, and I'm always, and by the way, I'm always open for interviews and different sidebar things, which I do.
Nice. And this is Peter B. Zwack, everybody. Get your copy of Swimming the Volga and his other book as well called Afghanistan on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And I believe these are also available on his website. That's www.peterbzwack.net. And
Thank
Peter,
you so much. My website is full of stories beyond those books. I mean, it's a lot of stories and articles and things. These books are just an hors d'oeuvre.
Guys, check his website out. Once again, that's www.peterbzwack.net. And I'm excited about checking out all of his stuff right there, and also the books, because these are actually for those people who love history as well and love getting to know more about people out there. And Peter, it has been an awesome time with you. Thank you for joining us here today at RM Hive.
Hey, thank you again for bringing me on, and to you and to everybody out there. These are difficult times. We'll get through it. We got to stay optimistic. I'm going to salute you all, and I'm going to say world peace. And thank you for having me.
Yes, and thank you for your service as well. So, guys, let's open the pages and unravel the secrets of your personal odyssey. And I believe that your ink never runs dry. So go tell your story, storyteller. This is your host, Revan. And as we say it here at Readers Magnet, we share your story with the world. Bye for now. Stay awesome.